The kitchen felt smaller when she stood in it. Maria had been living with us for 3 weeks, and every day felt like a year. I watched her rummage through my cabinets like she owned them, moving my dishes to make room for her Romanian cookware. When I asked her to please use the guest bathroom instead of mine, her dark eyes flashed with rage. "You spoiled American girl," she spat, her accent thick with disgust. "In Romania, we respect our elders. We don't make them feel unwelcome in their son's house." Her son's house. Not our house. Not the home Michael and I had bought together after 2 years of saving every penny. The mortgage was in both our names, but apparently, that didn't matter to Maria. I tried to stay calm. "Maria, this is just about boundaries. We all need our space." She laughed, a harsh sound that made my skin crawl. Then she grabbed my favorite coffee mug from the counter and hurled it against the wall. The ceramic exploded into pieces, just like my patience. "There," she said, crossing her arms. "Now you learn respect." I stared at the broken pieces, my hands shaking. This woman had been in my home for 3 weeks, and she was already destroying it. But what happened next would change everything forever. Then she did the unthinkable. Buster, my little Yorkapoo, had been hiding under the kitchen table. The crash of the mug had scared him, and he started his nervous barking. It was high-pitched and annoying, but he was just afraid. Maria's face twisted with fury. "Stupid dog," she screamed. Before I could react, she drew back her foot and kicked Buster hard in the face. The sound was awful, a sharp crack that seemed to echo through the entire house. My little dog flew backward, hitting the cabinet with a thud. Buster lay there for a moment, completely still. Then he started whimpering, blood trickling from his mouth. I dropped to my knees beside him, my heart hammering in my chest. "You monster!" I gasped, gathering Buster in my arms. "How could you hurt him?" Maria shrugged, not even looking sorry. "Dogs should be quiet when adults are talking." I could feel something break inside me. Not just my heart for Buster, but something deeper. This wasn't about boundaries anymore. This wasn't about cultural differences or adjustment periods. This woman had just attacked an innocent animal because she was angry at me. That was the exact second I knew. This war had just changed. I didn't say another word to Maria. I just scooped up Buster, grabbed my purse and car keys, and headed for the door. She called after me in Romanian, her voice sharp and mocking, but I didn't turn around. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely start the car. Buster was still bleeding, and I could feel his little body trembling against my chest. I drove straight to the emergency vet, tears streaming down my face. Once Buster was being treated, I sat in the parking lot and called Michael. He answered on the second ring, sounding cheerful. "Hey babe, how's your day going?" "Your mother just kicked our dog in the face," I said, my voice cracking. Silence. "Then what?" "She kicked Buster, Michael. In the face. He's bleeding." "I'm at the emergency vet." Another pause. I could hear him breathing, thinking, probably trying to figure out how to handle this without taking sides. "Okay, let me talk to her," he said finally. "I'm sure there's an explanation." "An explanation?" I felt my voice rising. "She broke my mug, terrorized me in my own kitchen, and then kicked our dog when he got scared. Either she goes or I do." His response made my blood run cold. "You need to calm down." Calm down. After his mother had physically abused our pet, he wanted me to calm down. I sat in that vet parking lot, staring at my phone, wondering if I even knew the man I married. "Michael, she hurt Buster. She threw my things. She's been treating me like garbage in our own home for 3 weeks. Look, I know mom can be passionate, but she's from a different culture. Maybe you misunderstood." Misunderstood. I cut him off. "There's blood on my shirt from our dog's mouth." What exactly did I misunderstand about that? He sighed, and I could picture him rubbing his forehead the way he did when he was stressed. "Can we just talk about this when you get home? I'm sure we can work something out." Work something out? I felt like I was talking to a stranger. "Your mother is abusive, Michael. And you're making excuses for her. She's not abusive. She's just set in her ways. And she's my mother." Those words hit me like a slap. She's my mother. As if that excused everything. As if blood relations gave someone the right to terrorize their son's wife and hurt innocent animals. When I hung up, I knew something fundamental had shifted in my marriage. My husband was choosing his mother over me. So I checked into a hotel alone and wondered if my marriage was already over. The hotel room was small and generic, but it felt safer than my own home. I couldn't stop thinking about the look in Maria's eyes when she kicked Buster. There had been no remorse, no accident about it. She had wanted to hurt something, and my dog was convenient. Buster was going to be okay. The vet said he had a loose tooth and some bruising, but nothing permanent. Still, I kept him close, watching him sleep on the hotel bed beside me. Michael texted me twice that first night. Please come home. We can talk. Then, Mom feels bad about what happened. I didn't respond. Let him sit with the silence. Let him wonder what it felt like to lose someone you loved because you couldn't stand up for them. The second night he called. She's really sorry, he said. She didn't mean to hurt Buster. She kicked him in the face, Michael. On purpose. I watched her do it. She says he bit her first. Lies. Bold-faced lies, and my husband was repeating them like they were facts. I hung up without another word. By the third night, I was starting to think I might never go home again. But then she slipped and gave me the weapon I didn't know I had. My neighbor Carmen called me on Thursday morning. We weren't close friends, but we were friendly enough to chat over the fence sometimes. Hey, honey, she said, her voice careful. I hope you don't mind me calling, but I thought you should know what's going on. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? Well, your mother-in-law has been talking to everyone. Mrs. Peterson, the Johnsons, even the mail carrier. She's telling people that you abandoned your husband and that you've been treating her like a servant. I felt heat rise in my cheeks. What? She says you made her sleep on the floor and wouldn't let her use the bathroom. That you screamed at her for speaking Romanian and threw her food away. Carmen paused. I know that doesn't sound like you, but, well, people are talking. My hands started shaking again. It wasn't enough for Maria to terrorize me in my own home. She wasn't content with turning my husband against me. Now she was spreading lies to my entire neighborhood. Carmen, none of that is true. I figured, she said quickly. But I thought you should know. Some people are, well, they're not sure what to believe. That's when I realized. She wasn't just attacking me inside my home. She was poisoning everyone outside of it too. By Friday, the whispers had reached my workplace. My coworker Beth pulled me aside during lunch, her face full of fake concern. So I heard you're having some family drama, she said, fishing for gossip. What did you hear? Oh, just that your mother-in-law is staying with you and it's challenging. She smiled, the kind of smile people wear when they're enjoying someone else's misery. I knew that smile. I knew that tone. Maria's lies were spreading like poison through my life, contaminating everything they touched. People who barely knew me were suddenly experts on my character, my marriage, my treatment of family. The worst part was that I couldn't defend myself without sounding crazy. What was I supposed to say? Actually, she's the one who kicked my dog and threw my dishes. Who would believe that over a sweet old Romanian grandmother? I went home to the hotel that night feeling more isolated than I'd ever felt in my life. Buster was healing, but I was falling apart. My marriage was crumbling. My reputation was in ruins, and the woman destroying my life was living in my house like she owned it. But her arrogance made her sloppy, and soon she would expose herself without me lifting a finger. I finally decided to go home on Saturday morning. Not to surrender, but to confront the situation head-on. I found Michael in the kitchen, looking exhausted. She's destroying me outside this house, I said without preamble. Your mother is telling lies about me to everyone we know. He looked up from his coffee, dark circles under his eyes. What lies? That I abuse her. That I treat her like a servant. That I abandoned you. I sat down across from him. Our neighbors think I'm a monster, Michael. For a moment, I saw doubt flicker across his face. Maybe he was starting to realize that his mother wasn't the victim she pretended to be. I'll talk to her, he said quietly. You've been saying that for a week. I know, but what? She's destroying our marriage, our reputation, our life together. And you keep making excuses for her. He was quiet for a long moment, staring into his coffee like it held answers. I thought maybe finally he was going to choose us over her. Instead, he looked up at me with tired eyes and said the words that broke my heart. "She's still my mother." Maria escalated after that conversation. She started calling her relatives in Romania, speaking loudly on speakerphone so I could hear every word. I didn't speak Romanian, but I recognized my name mixed in with her angry, animated voice. Michael translated reluctantly when I pressed him. "She's telling them you're cruel to her. That you won't let her cook or help with housework. That you're trying to turn me against her. More lies. Bigger lies." Now her entire extended family back home thought I was some kind of monster who abused elderly women. My phone started ringing with international numbers. Cousins and aunts and family friends, all calling to scold me in broken English. "You no treat Maria like this," one woman said. "She good woman. You be respectful." I stopped answering my phone altogether. Maria watched me during these calls, her dark eyes gleaming with satisfaction. She was winning, and she knew it. Every lie was another nail in the coffin of my life. But then I remembered something she didn't know I knew about. Her green card. I had been there when Michael helped her with the paperwork. The immigration lawyer had been very clear about the requirements. Maria's permanent residence was still pending, and one of the key factors was proof of a stable family environment. Any evidence of domestic violence, abuse, or unstable living conditions could jeopardize her application. The USCIS took these things seriously, especially when there were documented incidents. I sat in that hotel room with Buster sleeping beside me, thinking about the vet bills in my purse. Medical records showing trauma to my dog's mouth. Dated and documented proof of Maria's violent behavior. The immigration lawyer had given Michael his card. I still had the number saved in my phone from when Michael had asked me to add it to our contacts. One phone call. That's all it would take. I stared at that number for hours, my finger hovering over the call button. Was I really going to do this? Was I really going to use her immigration status as a weapon? But then I remembered Buster's blood on my shirt. I remembered her lies poisoning my reputation. I remembered my husband choosing her over me, again and again. And I had a direct line to her immigration officer. Maria got bolder after I moved back into the house. She started touching my things deliberately, moving my pictures, rearranging my furniture. But the worst was what she did to the photo of my mother. Mom had died 2 years ago, and I kept her picture on the mantle in our living room. It was my favorite photo of her, smiling in her garden with dirt on her hands and joy in her eyes. I came downstairs one morning to find Maria dusting around it, muttering in Romanian. When she saw me watching, she picked up the frame and sneered. "Why you keep dead woman picture? She not here anymore. This make house feel, how you say, haunted." "That's my mother," I said quietly. "Dead mother," she corrected. "You need to let go. Move on. Live women more important than dead ones." She set the picture face down on the side table and walked away, leaving me staring at the back of the frame. That night, I set it back up. The next morning, it was face down again. This became our silent war. Every day, I would turn my mother's picture face up. Every day, Maria would turn it face down. But her cruelty gave me an idea. So I set a trap, and she walked straight into it. I invited Michael's brother Tom and his wife Kelly over for Sunday dinner. They were good people, and I knew they'd been hearing Maria's version of events. I wanted witnesses to see who she really was. I spent the morning cooking, making sure everything was perfect. Maria watched me suspiciously, but she couldn't object to a family dinner without looking unreasonable. When Tom and Kelly arrived, Maria transformed. She became the sweet, suffering grandmother, speaking softly about how hard it was to adjust to American life. She talked about missing Romania, about feeling unwelcome, about just wanting to help her son. Kelly's face was full of sympathy. "It must be so difficult, being in a new country." "Very difficult," Maria agreed, shooting me a meaningful look. "Some people not understand. They want old people to be invisible." I stayed quiet, serving dinner and playing the perfect hostess. But I was waiting. After dinner, while Kelly was in the bathroom and Tom was helping Michael with dishes, Maria thought she was alone with me in the living room. She walked over to my mother's picture, which I had deliberately set face up that morning. She picked it up, looked directly at me with a cruel smile, and turned it face down again. "She doesn't belong here," Maria said loud enough for everyone to hear. And for once, my husband didn't defend her. The room went completely silent. Kelly had come back from the bathroom just in time to see Maria disrespect my dead mother's picture. Tom dropped the dish towel he was holding. "Mom," Michael said, his voice strained. "What are you doing?" Maria's mask slipped. She realized she had been caught, but her pride wouldn't let her back down. Dead women make house feel sad. She need to put away. "That's my wife's mother," Michael said slowly, like he was seeing his own mother clearly for the first time. "Your wife need to let go of dead things." Kelly's face had gone pale. She looked at me, then at Maria, then at the picture frame face down on the table. That's really cruel," she said quietly. Maria's composure cracked completely. "You all against me. I try to help, but nobody appreciate. This house full of disrespect." She stormed upstairs, leaving the four of us standing in awkward silence. Michael walked over and gently turned my mother's picture face up again. "I'm sorry," he said, not looking at me. I didn't know she was doing this, but I could see it in his eyes. The doubt was growing. The blind loyalty was starting to crack. She made a mistake. She underestimated just how much I could endure. That night, after Tom and Kelly left, I cornered Michael in our bedroom. Maria was downstairs, banging pots and pans in the kitchen like a toddler having a tantrum. "It's me or her," I said simply. "I'm done, Michael. I can't live like this anymore." He sat on the edge of our bed, head in his hands. "She's my mother, and I'm your wife. The woman you promised to love and protect. But you've been letting her destroy me for weeks. It's complicated." "No, it's not." I sat down beside him. "She kicked our dog. She's spreading lies about me. She's cruel to the memory of my dead mother. None of that is complicated." He was quiet for a long time. I could hear Maria downstairs, still making noise, probably hoping we'd come down and apologize to her. "What do you want me to do?" he asked finally. "I want you to choose. Her or me. Your mother or your marriage." Michael looked at me with pain in his eyes. "That's not fair. What's not fair is what she's done to me. What's not fair is that you've let her." He didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because deep down, he knew I was right. Later that night, I heard Maria's suitcase slam shut in the guest room, but not because she was leaving. The next morning, Maria called her sister in Romania on speakerphone from the kitchen. She spoke loudly in Romanian, but I could hear my name repeated over and over. Then she switched to English, making sure I could understand every word. "She lazy," Maria said, her voice carrying through the house. "American women know how to take care of family. She make me do all cooking, all cleaning, then she complain I help too much." I was sitting at the top of the stairs, listening to her paint me as a villain to her family overseas. "She no respect for elders," Maria continued. "In Romania, we know how to treat family. Here, they throw away old people like garbage." Michael was in the kitchen too. I could hear him moving around, probably making coffee, saying nothing to stop her performance. "Maybe I come back to Romania," Maria said dramatically. "Maybe my son better without wife who hate his mother." There was more Romanian from the phone, sympathetic voices telling Maria how sorry they were, how terrible I was, how ungrateful American women could be. When she finally hung up, the house fell silent. I stayed at the top of the stairs waiting. That's when I realized I wasn't just fighting her lies. I was fighting his silence. Over the next few days, Maria's charm offensive spread beyond our neighborhood. She started attending the community center activities, telling her sob story to anyone who would listen. She painted herself as a poor old woman trying to help her son, only to be bullied by a cruel daughter-in-law who resented her presence. She had an uncanny ability to make herself look fragile and sympathetic while making me sound like a monster. Mrs. Chen from the corner house stopped me at the mailbox. "Your mother-in-law seems like such a sweet woman," she said carefully. "It must be hard having her visit." Visit. That's what Maria was calling it now. A visit. Not a permanent invasion of our home. "She's been telling people some concerning things," Mrs. Chen continued. "About feeling unwelcome." The shame cut deep. These were people I had to see every day, people I shared a community with. And Maria was systematically destroying my reputation one conversation at a time. I smiled and nodded and said nothing, because what could I say? How do you defend yourself against lies without sounding defensive? But she had forgotten one thing. People had seen her cruelty with their own eyes. And soon they would start talking. I took Buster back to the vet for a follow-up appointment. Dr. Martinez was thorough, checking his mouth and jaw carefully. The trauma is healing well, she said, making notes in his file. But this type of injury, it's consistent with blunt force trauma. A kick or a hit. I told you what happened, I said quietly. I know. And I've documented everything. She looked at me seriously. If you ever need these records for any reason, legal or otherwise, just let me know. Legal. The word hung in the air between us. Dr. Martinez had been a veterinarian for 20 years. She knew the difference between an accident and abuse. I took the detailed report home with me. Black and white medical documentation of Maria's violent behavior. No opinions. No he said, she said. Just facts. When I showed Michael the report that evening, his face went pale. Blunt force trauma, he read aloud. That's what happens when someone kicks a small dog in the face, I said. He stared at the paper for a long time, like he was trying to make the words say something different. That's when he finally said the words I had been waiting for. I'll talk to her tonight. I listened from upstairs as Michael confronted his mother in the living room. His voice was different, firmer than I'd heard it in weeks. Mom, we need to talk about what happened with Buster. Nothing happened, Maria said dismissively. Dog was jumping, being crazy. I just pushed him away. The vet says he was kicked. Hard. Silence. Then, vet no what happened. Maybe dog fall. Mom, please. Just tell me the truth. Maria's voice turned sharp. You believe wife over mother? You believe dog doctor over family? I could hear Michael's frustration building. I believe medical evidence. Medical evidence? Maria's voice rose to a shriek. You choose strangers over your own blood. What kind of son are you? The kind of son who doesn't want his wife terrorized in her own home. The explosion was immediate and terrible. Maria started screaming in Romanian, her voice echoing through the house. Then in English, you are no son of mine. No son. You picked this woman over family. In her rage, she revealed something even Michael didn't know. I never planned to leave. This my house now. I stay forever. The admission hung in the air like smoke. Michael's voice, when it came, was barely a whisper. What did you say? I say I stay here. This my home now. In Romania, mothers live with sons until they die. This is how family works. I crept closer to the top of the stairs, my heart pounding. She was finally telling the truth. But you said you were visiting, Michael said slowly. You said 3 months, maybe 6. Maria laughed, harsh and triumphant. I tell you what you want to hear. But I never leave. This house big enough for family. Mom, you can't decide to live here permanently without asking us. I no need permission. I your mother. You owe me roof, food, respect. I could picture Michael's face, the shock and betrayal. His mother had lied to him from the very beginning. This wasn't a visit. It wasn't even an extended stay. It was a takeover. And your wife, Maria continued, her voice dripping with contempt. She learned to share. Or she leave. There was a long, terrible silence. And then he asked her to leave. I think you should go home, Mom. Maria's response was immediate and furious. No. I no go anywhere. This my house now. It's my house, Mom. Mine and my wife's. And you can't stay here if you're going to treat her like this. You choose that woman over your mother? I choose my marriage over your lies. I heard a chair scrape across the floor, then Maria's voice, higher and more frantic. I know leave. You know make me. Mom, please. Don't make this harder than it has to be. Harder. She was screaming now. You throw your mother in street like garbage. Like dog. I heard footsteps, then the sound of the guest room door slamming shut. Michael climbed the stairs slowly, his face gray with exhaustion. She won't go, he said simply. For the next 3 days, Maria barricaded herself in the guest room. She came out only to use the bathroom and make loud phone calls to Romania, crying and wailing about her ungrateful son and his terrible wife. She called family members at all hours, building an army of relatives to guilt Michael into changing his mind. But the law was finally on my side. I called the immigration lawyer whose card I still had. Alexander Petrov specialized in family-based immigration, and he listened carefully as I explained the situation. Domestic violence or abuse can definitely impact a green card application, he said, especially if there's documentation. I told him about the vet records, about Maria's violent behavior, about her lies to neighbors and family. The USCIS takes these things very seriously, he continued. An unstable household environment, documented abuse of animals, spreading false information to harm family members. These are all red flags. What would happen if I reported this? They would likely interview her, interview both of you, possibly interview neighbors and other witnesses. If they found evidence of the behavior you're describing, it could delay or even deny her application. I thanked him and hung up, my hands shaking. I had the power to end this nightmare, but using it felt nuclear. That night, I drafted a letter to USCIS, detailing Maria's behavior and attaching copies of the vet records. I didn't send it yet, but having it ready felt like holding a loaded gun. And suddenly, she realized her arrogance had consequences. The letter from USCIS arrived on a Tuesday morning. Michael signed for it, his face pale as he read the return address. "What's this about?" he asked me. I shrugged. Maybe a routine check. But Maria knew. The moment she saw that government envelope, her entire demeanor changed. The defiant woman who had been barricaded in our guest room for days suddenly looked small and frightened. The letter requested an interview with Maria and Michael within 30 days. It mentioned concerns about the stability of their household and asked them to bring documentation of their living situation. How they know about problems. Maria demanded, her English deteriorating under stress. Michael looked confused. I don't know. Maybe it's just routine. But Maria's eyes found mine across the kitchen, and for the first time since she'd arrived, I saw real fear there. She knew that someone had reported her. She just didn't know who. Over the next few days, she tried everything. Tears, apologies, promises to be better. She even cleaned the entire house and cooked Michael's favorite meal. But it was too late. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. 3 weeks after the USCIS letter arrived, I found Maria sitting at the kitchen table where this whole nightmare had started. She looked older, somehow smaller. The fight had gone out of her. I sat down across from her, calm and quiet. "You know it was me," I said. She nodded slowly. "I know. You brought this on yourself, Maria. The lies, the abuse, the threats. I just want to be with my son. You wanted to control him. There's a difference." She was quiet for a moment, staring at her hands. In Romania, family different. Mother come first. Not above his wife. Not at the expense of everyone else's happiness. Maria looked up at me, and for a brief moment, I saw something that might have been respect. "You stronger than I think," she said quietly. "Yes, I am." I stood up, looking down at the woman who had tried to destroy my life. "You no longer control this house. Or me." The next morning, I found her packing her suitcase in the guest room. She worked slowly, carefully folding each item like she was saying goodbye to a dream. "This isn't over," she muttered as she zipped the case shut. But we both knew it was. Michael drove his mother to the airport on a gray Thursday morning. I stayed home, watching from the bedroom window as he loaded her suitcase into the car. They didn't speak during the drive, he told me later. Maria sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window, while Michael gripped the steering wheel and tried to figure out how his life had gotten so complicated. At the airport, she turned to him one last time. "You choose her over family." "I chose my marriage over your cruelty," he replied. She walked through security without looking back. When Michael came home, he found me in the living room, sitting beneath my mother's picture, which was finally safe in its place of honor. He knelt beside my chair and took my hands in his. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice breaking. "I'm so sorry I let her hurt you. I'm sorry I didn't protect you." I looked down at my husband, this man I loved who had almost lost me through his silence. "I know you are. Can you forgive me?" I was quiet for a long moment, thinking about trust and love and the long road back to each other. But forgiveness wasn't going to come easily. 3 months later, I sat in my kitchen with Buster on my lap, drinking coffee from a new mug, one that Maria had never touched. The house felt like mine again, peaceful and clean and full of love instead of tension. Michael had spent those months earning back my trust. He went to counseling both alone and with me. He learned to set boundaries with his family. Most importantly, he learned to choose his marriage over his mother's manipulation. Maria was back in Romania, her green card application denied. She called sometimes, but Michael kept the conversations short and refused to discuss me or our life together. Her power over him was broken. The neighborhood gossip had faded as people realized Maria's lies didn't match reality. Mrs. Chen even apologized for believing the stories about me. Buster's jaw had healed completely, though he still flinched when strangers raised their voices. Time would heal that too. I thought about forgiveness often in those quiet months. Not the quick, easy kind that smooths over real hurt, but the slow, careful kind that rebuilds trust one day at a time. My marriage was stronger now, built on honesty instead of obligation. In the end, she took over my house for a while, but I took back my life.